you have entered the trait space, your safe space. I will give you, we jump right on in. So thank you all for being here with us. This support group started, got a little noise going on here. This support group started as of a request from Genesis, who is a warrior, in her own words, turned trait warrior. She walked up to our vendor table at the Warriors Convention last summer, and she said, Dr. Austin, do you guys have a sickle cell trait support group? And at that time, all I could say was no, but we've always wanted to have one. And she said, well, I am a post-transplant warrior, and I'm now a trait warrior, and I know everything about sickle cell, but I know nothing about sickle cell trait. So I'd like to, discuss the possibility of starting one with the As One Foundation. And that is literally, that conversation happened in July of last year. I think we had our first meeting in October, and we had our first support group in January. And the rest is history, as they say. But as things go with support groups, this is your group. This is your meeting. This is your safe space. We have taken the approach of letting the health month themes guide us. So this month, being April, is Stress Awareness Month. So I got to witness two powerhouses speak at the leadership summit that we just finished with the Sickle Cell Community Consortium. But I had witnessed you all, your social media campaign, I Believe in Therapy. And that just spoke to me. So I spoke with Genesis, and she loved it. So I am going to hush and allow each of you, our powerhouse speakers, to introduce yourselves and speak. You know why we're here. Like I said, Stress Awareness Month, but the I Believe in Therapy conversation, that campaign, and certainly others are welcome to unmute and speak. This is our next 55 minutes or so, your trait space to debrief however you see fit.
Well, hello, everyone. I can go first. My name is Dima Hendricks. I am actually a sickle cell warrior. I have two sons with sickle cell trait. And yeah, I'm here because, as Dr. Austin mentioned, we did speak about the I Believe in Therapy campaign, but we also have, I'm also linked to the Charisma study, which is an alternative for health coaching and mental health support for individuals with sickle cell disease. And I work hand in hand with Dr. Jonasant and the University of Pittsburgh team on that initiative. One of the reasons why I volunteered to be part of the I Believe in Therapy campaign was because of the taboo associated culturally within the Black community and within my African and Jamaican heritage of keeping things quiet. And we're walking around with so much ancestral pain and so much just walking around with the pain that we have, that I endure with sickle cell disease. And we're expected to continue to be warriors in spite of it all. And honestly, without therapy, I don't think I'll be able to function. Because we need someone to talk to share our ideas with. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. But I'm going to turn it over to my sister and my dear friend, Wumi.
Hi, everyone. Wow, it's hard to top what Dima just said, but I'll do my best. Hi everyone, I'm Wumi Bakare. I'm one half of a new podcast that is coming to you very soon on World Sickle Cell Day called Through the Genes. I am also an advocacy trailblazer, and I sit on the board of directors for Through the Pain Inc., which is founded by DEMA but supported by the community, and it's created for us by us, in essence. I participated in a stem cell transplant in 2019, so I'm on the other side of sickle cell disease, but I am very familiar with trait because both my parents have the sickle cell trait, my brother, my nephew, and my niece. So all around me, the closest people to me are affected by sickle cell trait, but I will always identify as a sickle cell warrior because even though I'm on the other side of sickle cell, I am still navigating chronic pain and iron overload and avascular necrosis. So that's the reason why I strongly hold on to my warrior status, and I don't think I will relinquish it anytime soon. But thank you for giving us an opportunity to be present in this safe space because I think I'm a testament to therapy. As Dima mentioned, I am Nigerian. And so for many Africans or people from the Caribbeans, mental health is just something that's not discussed. Often it's looked at as you are diagnosed as crazy in those cultures. So for us, having to practice cognitive behavioral therapy is very foreign to us for the most part. But for me, I think after the curative therapy was when I really struggled with a sense of identity because I always say sickle cell is the rock on which I built my perfectly imperfect life. It informs all of my favorite character traits, but I was coping in so many dangerous ways that weren't necessarily helpful for me and healthy for me. And so embarking on cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy has really reframed how I look at my life and the perspectives I choose to have, alongside all of the other titles that I hold as a warrior. I am a sister, I am a friend, I am a daughter, and recognizing that outside of sickle cell, there are many things that are of value to me. And I choose to define myself for all of those things because I am a woman first before my chronic illness. So that's a little bit about me. But so good to be here.
It is so good to have you both here. You both just introduced such rich, content just in that few little minutes. And I have so many questions. And Mizan, did I pronounce it right? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name
Okay.
is Fun. I got your information, Dr. Austin, from a woman on TikTok.
Oh.
And I was actually really nervous. I didn't, I was told very young that I had sickle cell trait. Oh my God.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And I was told that it was asymptomatic.
Mm.
And I'm down 2 organs. I am losing a kidney and doctors keep telling me that it's in my head, that it's that sickle cell trait is asymptomatic. It's not the cause of what I'm going through. And it has just been a road for me. And so she had actually made a video. She has sickle cell disease, and she had made a video in response to one of her followers asking about trait. And I took a risk. I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I just wanted to reach out. I just have, I only have, sickle cell trait. It's just sickle cell trait. And she stopped me and was like, it is not just, it's real. And, it's especially with, the way that we in America, the way that we tend to diagnose things, it's very black and white. It's linear. It's not, it's either on or it's off. It's not a spectrum. And, And so she and I had a conversation. She gave me your information, and this is actually the first meeting that I've ever attended. Um, I didn't think there were spaces like this for people who had sickle cell trait. I just thought we had to suck it up. So I appreciate it.
Oh, Lord. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. On. And I want to just go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am Dr. Tamia Austin, and that is my ode to my late grandmother. I am not a clinician, however. I am a researcher, and my dissertation research and dissertation research has been about sickle cell trait literacy, among other things. But I certainly would like to think that if there's a question that you have, if I don't have the answer, I will absolutely direct you to where, and you have some great powerhouses on this call tonight as well. So welcome. Um, you're absolutely right that in all cases, sickle cell trait is not asymptomatic, and we just need to find some answers. If it's not sickle cell trait, then what is it? That's my standpoint. And of course, more research is needed, more funding is needed, so more research can happen. I even believe that therapies can be developed for what happens with trait. And again, not in every case, but we've just had discussion upon discussion upon discussion about even the numbers of people affected by trait. And I found an alarming statistic that said that 97% of all sickle cell disease births here in the United States are born to parents that don't even know their sickle cell trait status.
Wow.
So we just need testing, testing, knowing that spectrum, that genotypical spectrum, if it's S or C or D or Punjab or Monroe or whatever along that 200 plus spectrum. It's just so much that's not known because of that. It's just, or that nothing to worry about. And your life is proof. The Ryan Clark's, our founder, our Y, his identical twin brother, who, by the way, would have been his 42nd birthday today. So we say happy birthday to the late Devon Darling and to our founder, Devar Darling, who established the As One Foundation in memory of his brother. And he went on to become a national football player and used his platform to start this organization to commemorate the memory of Devon, but certainly um, to raise awareness of the sickle cell trait. And I appreciate all sides. Genesis came to us because she says Genesis is the founder of this support group. But the choice of how you identify, as Wumi spoke to, is why this will be and always will be a safe space. And I personally believe it's one conversation comprehensively inclusive of all. And we'll get there how we get there together. So thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for that. As we said, tonight's topic is stress awareness, and both Dima and Wumi are a part of this very engaging social media campaign called I Believe in Therapy. So we'll talk more about it, but I do want to just give each of our other participants an opportunity to introduce yourself if you so wish. If not, that is absolutely fine. I believe we just welcomed Claudette and Kiara.
Hi everybody, I'm Kiera Coper. Sorry I'm not on camera, y'all. I'm slowly recovering from a long week, but I just wanted to play the background and support these group of individual ladies and everything that they are doing. This is definitely a safe place. We are family. I never separate sickle cell trait from the disease because pain is real. Our experience is real. And so any way that I can learn and be a student and be of any support, I try to show up. And so that's why I'm here. I just love it here. So thank you.
Hi, Claudette Ainaba. I am less than 1 minute from my house. That's why I'm off camera. And I am so glad I found this group. I've been looking for, some sort of place to talk about, health issues and stress. That's like perfect right now. I have sickle cell trait, and we were always told that it was benign, until I had a pulmonary embolism in 2018. And I started learning a lot more that, even my doctors didn't know. And so, thank you for holding this space for us, for all.
We are honored to have you, and you get home safely. We will be right here. So with that, Dima, this is your show. So however you want to approach the topic, your podcast, the campaign, or if you want to address something that you've heard tonight, whatever you wish. And I do have some questions, but I'll leave the floor open for you.
Okay. I think, Mazan, I want you to know that I'm sending you virtual hugs, but I'm also going to lift you in prayer because we have to recognize that sickle cell trait does impact people that have the trait, and recognizing and hearing you talk about some of the health issues you're dealing with. For me, is a bigger wake-up call that the work we've done within this community, we are only scratching the surface, because I think more research, more support, more conversations, and overall awareness needs to happen. So I'm very grateful that God led you here, Claudette as well. And I'm hoping that this is just an opportunity for even us as warriors to learn from you, because I know the lived experience of sickle cell, but I have different people that have traits that have said, oh, there was one day I had this shooting pain in my arm, and I said, is this what warriors go through? And even though it lasted a few hours, I said to myself, I want to have this arm amputated. That's how triggering the pain was for them. And in that moment, it was kind of a wake-up call to recognize and see that all of those that are affected by sickle cell trait in one form or another, obviously some of them, it could be stress related, some it could be altitude related, that could impact their bodies. And so I really hope that the conversations we have today support you, and that you leave taking away a thing or two, and that we can all kind of stay connected so we can lean on each other for support. Because even though I recognize you found the information from TikTok, I want you to know there's a community behind you that will continue to support you as you navigate this uncharted territory, because I can't imagine the wave of emotions that you're going through each and every day, recognizing that this hasn't been much of an issue until now, or maybe it has, but it just hasn't been this life altering as it is now for you. And so I hope that we can support you in the best way we can, but more importantly, that you know you're not alone in what you're embarking on. So
I second that as well. I absolutely agree. I noticed even with my two children that have the trait, they have symptoms. My oldest son, he presents as if he has sickle cell crises from time to time. He complains about back pain, leg pains. And at first, in my ignorance as a new parent, when he was younger, I would chop it up to being, oh, you're having a growth spurt. Oh, your legs are getting longer. But now he's fully grown and he's still experiencing those symptoms. And he gets tired, and I can tell he has some brain functioning. He has some like brain fog and things that we have different commonalities. And I had to kind of readjust my thinking and say, hey, this might be the trait. And so with that said, I know that even with now as my my second son is in school, and he wants to play football, and he wants to play sports, and he wants to do all the things. I'm very cognizant. I'm one of the parents that are really like into making sure that I'm advocating for, not only advocating for him, but making sure he's drinking enough water, making sure he's resting, talking to the coaches and talking to the teachers and showing up for him and letting them know that if he asks to go to the bathroom, let him go to the bathroom. Let him drink the water that he needs. He may be dehydrated. So just showing up the way my mom used to show up for me as a warrior, I need to still be able to show up for him as someone who was a trait warrior. And I shouldn't, and like Kiara said, we are all in this together. It doesn't matter the genotype. We all are affected to some capacity. So please let us know how we can help advocate for you, because it's going to be very difficult to navigate with all of the ignorance that we have to encounter when it comes to not just the sickle cell disease, but the trait as a whole, or just that one mutation that happens in our body can do so many things. So just let us know how we can advocate and show up for you in this time.
Like I said, you guys are just so rich with comments and idea inducing content. I would like to ask a question, and I feel this is a safe place to ask it. Does everyone that completes the transplant process become sickle cell trait?
No.
No. Okay.
So with gene therapy, you technically still have the SS genotype.
Okay.
Because they're not changing your genotype, they're only turning on fetal hemoglobin to be produced. That's if you participate in the Vertex clinical trial. So you'll still have HBSS. For me, on the other hand, because mine was stem cell, I'm technically now genotype AS, but the reality is prior to transplantation, I froze my eggs. And so if I do have challenges while trying to conceive, then my children will still be carriers of sickle cell disease.
Okay. I wanted clarification for that for our audience as well. And especially for the last point, which is your genotype doesn't really, because of the conversation that I like to introduce whenever I'm, educating about sickle cell trait, that conversation that makes us all inclusive. Statistically, all offspring of our sickle cell disease warriors will be at least trait. And in most cases, the parents of our disease warriors were trait. It can certainly be other combinations, but it just makes that statement, trait people make disease and disease people make trait, true. That's what makes that true. But of course, there is that situation where a donor, may be trait in the instance of one of the therapies, so that warrior becomes trait. And that's the way that Genesis describes her process. But the identification, as you described, Wumi, is certainly personal. But the education, in my opinion, is still the same. We need the reproduction health education piece to know about how to go into this process if it is the case that you want to become a parent later. I mean, it's just all the things, as Sharonda says, all the conversation. And, this is where we, intend to introduce all of it and have experts come and give us talks. But as you see my background, I am projecting, I am manifesting, the lowering of my stress, just because the day of the week that is Tuesday happens to be the day for me. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go with this background tonight so that we can, project. But if anyone has any questions, please don't be afraid to unmute. I would like to talk about stress and the I Believe in Therapy campaign and why that is of particular importance in this population? Anybody?
Well, so I'm going to give a disclaimer now. I'm going to have a lot of questions, so please just shut me up if
No,
it gets...
go
Okay, we
ahead.
want to hear them.
Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Just to preface this, I have been dealing with pain since I was 10, and it started around my cycles. And so every cycle I would have, 9, sometimes 12 hours of pain that was more challenging than my actual labor. So that was the first organ. I had an ovary removed, then I had a hysterectomy, and I have necrosis in the hip and then in the kidney. All that to say, I then had since I was 10, I've been like working with doctors, and it almost feels like I have to know more about sickle cell than the people I'm paying to understand me. And so I have 3 children. I wasn't supposed to have children. My uterus, the tissue was necrotic, so it had been falling apart. They don't know how I managed to have 3 beautiful babies. I give that to God. So, but 2 of my kids have sickle cell trait. My oldest daughter was hospitalized during 2020, and it was very similar to what I had experienced around that age. She had a buildup of fluid at the base of her spine or base of her neck, and she needed a spinal tap. And they ran the gamut of tests, and everything came clear. The only thing that she had similar to me is sickle cell trait. And so it stresses me out whenever it's time for me to either have to go to a doctor, or if I'm going through a pain crisis, I will avoid going to the hospital because I know that either they're going to tell me that I'm just looking for drugs, which I've had, doctors try and give me a diuretic instead of pain medicine when I'm going through, these hours of pain. And so my concern is that when I start going through, kind of the more serious, I'm going into multiple hours of pain, I'm stressing my body out because I don't know, I don't have the awareness of like, okay, this is the limit. This is when you have to go. But then going means I'm facing a medical system that was not created for us. So I'm wondering if there's hopefully you can find a question in that. But I want to know how to work with the medical field and the stress around pain and having to deal with doctors.
You sound like a warrior.
And do you mind saying where you are in the world?
Okay, so I used to live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was really high elevation. We didn't know. I was born in DC. I'm from the DMV area. Again, we were told sickle cell trait is asymptomatic, so I can go anywhere. I lived in Santa Fe for almost 20 years, little under 20 years. And then a doctor, I like my sight was starting to go. We believed that I had like a mini stroke. My hair was falling out. I was going through pain weekly at this point. I went to many doctors who, there was only one doctor who was like, honestly, I think you were misdiagnosed. I think you might have the disease. But he was talking about like percentages. I'm not within the percentile of having the disease. I'm around 40%. And so he was like, honestly, if you want to save your life, you need to move to lower elevation. So we packed up our family 7 years ago, and now I'm in California. But we were not planning on moving. So I was in Santa Fe, now I'm in California.
And do you notice a difference in your body after you moved?
Okay, so yes, but it took a while.
Okay.
So there's some things that did go away. I stopped losing my hair. The blinding headaches had stopped. There's been some scarring that we believe got started in Santa Fe that has not gotten better. So I have some scarring in my lungs and some in a heart valve and a bunch in my abdominal cavity, more where my uterus was. Um, so yes, things have gotten better, but the things, the kind of the major things have stayed, and I'm still dealing with it.
Wow.
So I just want, like, again, I'm not a clinician, but when it comes to sickle cell trait, that 40%, and you said you are genotype S, that 40% is it increases, it is an indicator of the likelihood of symptoms, which is why we advise all trait warriors, anybody, number one, just go get tested, because sickle cell affects people of African, Asian, Indian, Latin, Italian, Greek, Turkish descent, not skin color thing. This is blood. And so everyone need blonde hair, blue eyed, clear skin. The clear people need to go and get tested.
Sure.
So that part. And then get tested via the sensitive testing, like the hemoglobin electrophoresis, which does give you the percentage. And like I said, that percentage at that 40, that 35, 40 is definitely an indicator of the likelihood of symptoms.
Mm.
It just is that, and that's in the research. That's not me saying that. That is in the research. And again, I'm so sorry, but your experience, you are not alone. You often you are educating your own provider, because they get 5 minutes in a typical medical school curriculum on trait. And that 5 minutes includes, it's asymptomatic and it's benign and nothing to worry about. So, I'm what if there's lots of supportive organizations in California. So, have you heard of Cayenne? What part of California? I'm sorry.
So I'm about 20 minutes north of San Francisco.
Okay.
Oh, that's a bit of a hike from where Cayenne Wellness is.
That's okay. I'll go.
Okay. But there's also Ferran Dozier, who is a trait warrior. He actually survived rhabdo, which is that breaking down of muscle tissue that ultimately contributed to Devon's death. Ferran was going through it in a military conditioning exercise. He is in, oh God, I was going to say it and now I'm having a moment.
LA,
Oh,
San Diego,
he's
Oakland.
north of LA. I know he's north of LA, but not too far from LA. But he is also, and he's a trait warrior, and he definitely educates about exertion and dehydration and exhaustion and all of that. So this is being recorded. So if you don't mind, I got your email because you registered to be here, and we'll share that. But thank you so much for your questions. And Dima, were you gonna say something else? That misdiagnosis happened, that occurrence is pretty normal also.
Mm.
Have you've obviously had the hemoglobin electrophoresis.
I have, yeah, and we started to search the globe when we realized that I just wouldn't get treatment here in America. So I went and spoke to doctors in Brazil, and they have one of the largest hospitals that works with sickle cell in São Paulo. And even a doctor there was like, this doesn't sound like sickle cell trait. This sounds like the disease. And there are so many types of sickle cell at this point. And so she had kind of gone through my chart, and my mom has, oh my God, thalassemia, and
Mm.
my dad has trait.
Okay.
So that was yes, I have had it. I've had the test done.
I was gonna say, From everything you've described, I wholeheartedly feel like you need to not only get connected with a CBO, but my doctor is Brazilian and he's done a lot of research on Brazil has the best sickle cell care in the world. They do a very good job of managing sickle cell disease. So I'm thinking that maybe offline I might have a conversation with him and connect you too. But my advice is more preventative care. I hate to say this, but everyone within the sickle cell space has encountered some form of a misdiagnosis or the providers just not taking us seriously. So this is one of those disease areas that the color of our skin really affects how they manage our cases. So for me, I recommend preventative care. Know your numbers, know all of your symptoms, have a journal or a notebook where you're keeping track of every single thing, even if it's, really in minute detail of what was my hemoglobin when they tested it the last time and what is it now. When you shared you were when your period showed up at 10, for me, interestingly enough, my periods were bad with sickle cell, and now on the other side, my period kind of feel worse to me. But again, my care team is saying it's because you are so used to using high pain meds like opiates to manage the pain. That's why it feels like it's worse now, because you're using Tylenol and Midol and things like that. So I think this is one of those cases where it could be possible that because there is that 40%, maybe your body, the way your sickle cell is manifesting is more like SC, which is they're not as sick with the VOC, vaso-occlusive crises, but they still encounter like critical health issues every 2 to 3 years. So my recommendation to your daughter would be this: education. Let her know her body, the ins and outs. Because for me, what I've noticed is when I know what I'm talking about and when I'm speaking, self-agency, there's a shift that happens because they recognize they can't play with me because I already know the science behind how my body manifests and why they need to take me seriously. I also think it might be beneficial for you to maybe be connected to a comprehensive sickle cell center who might have doctors that are more experienced with this disease and wouldn't tell you things like it's all in your head. So I think those are the two strategies I would think of in how to better manage this, because your daughter, if she's at that age now where she's becoming a woman and she's in the transition period, for a lot of warriors, that's where the ball drops, because you go from pediatric care to then adult care, and it's just handled in two distinct ways. So I think prioritize how you choose to educate her. And even having this conversation, I'm beginning to think maybe we need to work with Elle to create a book on sickle cell trait education so that kids as young as like 5 can start getting better educated on how their trait status can manifest. So they're in positions of kind of taking the power back and saying, I'm familiar with my trait and these are some of the things that can happen. So when it does occur, they're well equipped to know the right outlets or like medical experts that they can leverage to better help them understand how the trait status manifests.
Can I just say that there is kind of a renowned hematologist here in Oakland, and not far from me, Dr. Hager. I was so excited to see him. My husband, who kind of doesn't take no for an answer, got me an appointment. I saw him. He was like, we don't see trait. So, this is, sorry. If we were to start seeing people with trait, our business would be overrun. So I tried to go back to see him. He won't see me again. So I do want to see someone, but again, it's that stress of like, will I get the same answer that I got the dozen of other times that I've seen doctors?
I understand that, but your health is wealth and your health is your number one priority. No one is going to take it as seriously as you do. So I guess my question to you is this: would you mind seeing an expert in that area, even though they're not in close proximity to where you live, even
Absolutely.
if it's virtually? And then, okay. All right. I also think this is a question for the NIH to see if they're doing research in this trait space. and then maybe, because I mean, they're the number one federal government research institute in the world. So I imagine that she probably won't be the first trait patient that they'd have to, talk to. Let me see what I can do.
Please, Wumi, we absolutely need that. I don't know if you guys have, are you familiar with Dr. Maisha Pasanti?
No.
So, when we have done the trait track, the Aswan Foundation, when we've done the trait track at the Warriors Convention, especially during those virtual years, Dr. Pasanti presented with us, and she's an actual MD.
Okay.
She also specializes in trait, and she has developed, it's called Inscription, and it's spelled kind of funky. It's a capital N and then X, Scription. Through Inscription, she's able to see patients anywhere, and I believe she's licensed in multiple states. We informally refer to her as the trait doctor.
Okay.
So, and she is definitely not in any way going to tell you we don't treat trait. She is definitely a safe space. And I also wanted to, and she's the person to ask about, but, the fact that you could possibly have two traits, one from your mom, one from your dad. And in some cases, it's like disease. I know I've heard it described that way, but again, I'm not a clinician, so I do want you to, bring this up with the expert that Wumi is referring to, and I'll also refer you to Dr. Pasanti. I believe I met someone that ended up with, what is it, thalassemia disease, because somehow they had two traits, and two copies means disease as far as how I was taught. But we'd have to, number one, determine if you got a trait from both of your parents, because if you said dad is trait also, your father is trait. So mom is trait, dad is trait. We don't know if both copies